Hello to everyone watching this video. What you are seeing is the main menu of this new game I've been making for the last 5 months, titled Rodeo Clown. Before I get into anything, I would like to make a disclaimer. If you were one of the 10 people who watched my last video showcasing a game called Going Out West, don't freak out. That is this game I'm showing right now. I just renamed it. So yeah, it used to be called Going Out West, and now it's called Rodeo Clown. And I guess I'm basically just remaking that old showcase because it would be marketing suicide to have multiple videos of the same game with different titles. So yeah, the game is called Rodeo Clown. Don't forget it. But what is the game is probably a better thing to tell you right now. It is a visual novel. And when I say novel, I really mean novel because there is a lot of reading in this game. But in between all that reading, there will be walking. And dare I say, shades of walking simulator, which is a terrible name for a genre, but that's basically what I would describe it as. So yeah, visual novel mixed in between walking. So it's a very simple game, and I'm about to show you what I mean by that very shortly, but yeah. The game is a work in progress. I guess that should be my main thing to tell you before I show you it. It's not finished. Everything you see is probably subject to change. But it's playable from start to finish, and it's in a state where I can show people. So, if you're interested, check it out. Oh, and I guess I'll say this at the start, in case you don't watch the rest of the video. If you want to play the game, it's not available anywhere because obviously it's not finished, but I can send it to people if they're interested individually. So I don't know, hit me up if you want to play it, because I'd very much appreciate playtesters, because I'm the only person working on this game. But anyway, yeah, if you want to play it, ask. And let's start. Yes. And right off the bat, I'm not going to be delving too heavily into the narrative aspect of things, just because, I don't want to spoil it. This game is all about the narrative. If I give it all away right off the bat, then, well, kind of loses its punch. So, instead of talking about the narrative, well, I'll briefly touch on it, but I'm mostly going to be showing you the stuff outside of the narrative. So, oh shit, we'll get there in a second. But, for that, this is the opening scene conversation of the game. This is the UI, also subject to change. I would say maybe, probably not final. But this is how it works. You're basically reading, and you're playing from the perspective of someone called Des. And all these narration things, they're all your thoughts. And then you have choices. Not here, you don't have a choice, you have one choice, which is elaborate. And then your brain says you should be a truck driver because you get to listen to heaps of music. And then here's an actual choice. And this is the gameplay loop in the conversation part of the game. It's very simple. You read and then you make choices. And to expand on what I mean by choices, because honestly, choice is such a vague term in what does that entail? In this game, it is not world altering choices. So it's not like an RPG style choice system where you choose to be a good person or you choose to be a bad person. It's not like that. It's more character choices and very subtle things about how you think about something, and really insignificant opinions about stuff, or just arguments with people or yourself, really, because this game is very much, sort of talked about, there's a lot of back and forth between yourself and your brain, like right now. So you're kind of constantly in a state of argument with yourself, which is, I won't call it realistic because I'm not a psychologist. But for the sake of this game, there are basically voices in your head, or maybe one voice in your head that is constantly telling you stuff. And it is less an extension of you and more like a separate person that you either agree or don't agree with. So, yes, being a truck driver would be terrible, but you could become an expert in shit gaze or bro country. And that brings me to the next point of discussion, which, even though those are real music genres, I'm playing that for a joke. Because this game is, I wouldn't describe it as a comedy, but it has a lot of comedy in it. So keep that in mind. It deals with some serious things. It's very dramatic, but it also has a lot of humor in it, so don't be put off by all the seriousness. So yeah, that's the idea of the narrative. I won't reveal anything more for the time being. I'll get to it later, but right now I'm going to skip ahead to the actual stuff that takes place outside of the game. Or outside of the conversation system. So bear with me. Alright, here we are in the real world of Rodeo Clown. And this is where the air quotes walking simulator part comes into play. So we just did that opening scene and I skipped ahead, but after that opening scene concludes, you'll end up here in front of this payphone because your own phone doesn't have any reception, so you've got to do it old school because you need to call someone. So you pull up and you're here, and you basically have the option to pull up the payphone, or you can talk to this rock if you're really curious. Although you still have to do this conversation before you can do the rock, because the phone call is important. But this is all introductory stuff. This isn't representative of the entire game. I'll show you what is later on. Looking around, you're trapped. You can't go over there. Hell is real. Yeah. Just for clarification, I'm not like a religious fanatic. I'm not religious at all, but this game is set in like deep south. Well, maybe not deep south, but it's in Texas. So it'd be a bit rude of me not to include things like that. But anyway, you get the idea. Now, I'm going to skip ahead again. I'm going to skip ahead to later in the narrative, after all this phone call stuff takes place and you drive off. So stay tuned for that. Alright, welcome back. Now you're wondering, why the hell are you inside? Well, that's just where the story takes us. We're inside this dude's house. His name Ernest. And I won't tell you why, but it involves a phone. So yeah, you're in this dude's house, you have a long conversation with this dude. Lots and lots of talking. Would you believe that this game has talking? And then, from here you can look at his tape collection if you're annoying. You actually get to watch one of the tapes if you really want to. It's a newsreel of Howard Hughes crashing his plane into someone's house. So yeah, if you want to see that, play this game. But you can leave. Life lesson, you can always leave. Yeah. Forgot about that. I'm not going to explain what just happens. So just accept that's part of the game. So yeah, ignoring that, this is Aurora. This is the name of the town that you will spend the majority of the game in, because your car broke down right there. So you can't go anywhere else. You know, it's a classic narrative device. Car doesn't work, and you have no reception either. So from this point on, the game opens up and you can walk wherever you want within the town. You can go over here, go check out the memorial if you really want to. You can even salute the flag. I'm not going to do that. You can talk to this dude fixing his roof on his sign shed. Shameless. Check out his car. Go talk to this lady. She's cool. Or you can just walk around her. Can't go in her house, but we're walking, as a walking simulator would suggest. This is what we do. We walk around. And I'm avoiding quite a few things right now, like I just walk past those people, but if you were a normal player, you would walk up to them and then you would click on them and you would enter a conversation with them, like real people do. But like I said, I'm avoiding that for the time being. I'm just going to show you the town. Here's the water tower. Here's a basketball ring. You can't play basketball because somebody put the ball behind the fence. You can talk to this rock, you know, as you do. You can check out the church. Front doors, House of God. I think it's locked because God is not letting us in today. Go up here. You can talk to this dude. Or you can run over here. Oh, actually, no. Ignore that. I'm going to show you this one. Because I'm pretty happy with this, because it's funny. Just dwell on it for a second. Marinate in it. Yeah. Ominous screen. My favorite character. Again, I'm not going to explain it. There are many unexplained things. Now, there are also interiors. I came out of that interior, but I could also go into the gas station if I want. It's currently in the middle of moving out, as you can see, but you can talk to Sugar. I'm not going to do that. Probably going to get tired of me saying that, but I'm not going to do it. Check out the old commercial row. Go in here if you want. Well, you can't go in here yet because the door is locked, but if you got the guts, you can go through the door. Going back to the choices section, or what I was talking about earlier, about how the choices aren't like huge, like life-changing shit. All these, obviously, they all kind of lead to the same thing. Like, it's not a shop, it's a house. Or it's a shop, not a house, as a doormat. Or I do not care. They all lead you through that door, inevitably. It's just, why are you going through that door, really? And the why has no impact on anything. It does because you're going through that door no matter what. Or you could leave if you want, but you can come back later. I do not care. Alright, if you get shot, you'll have only yourself to blame. And yeah, this is in Texas. Everyone has guns, would you believe it? It wasn't obvious. I'm Australian, so. What a novel concept. But anyway, I should also mention the town this is set in is fictional. All the people in it are fictional. All the events are fictional. It's not based on anything. Please don't attribute real life stuff to what you're seeing here. Unless it's like allegorical. I'm going to comment on this. All these conversations you might have noticed have like these names next to them. This one is stealing people's mail. And if you're if you know the Dead Kennedys, you'll know that's a song from the Dead Kennedys. And every single conversation in this game, like all these text boxes, whenever you go talk to someone, all these conversations have a title, and every single title is the name of a song. And for the most part, these songs sort of relate to what's happening within the scene, or they happen, whether it be like really obvious or maybe implicit, like with like the lyrics, the vibe, or whatever. Just, it's the sort of song that I want you to think of when you do this conversation. And even better if you've heard it, but if not, my intention is that you go listen to that song after you've read all this stuff. Because this game is, it doesn't have any music yet, but it is very much about music, and it takes a lot of inspiration from music. So having a Dead Kennedy song called Stealing People's Mail as the title of this conversation where you break into this random building, obviously there's connections to be made, and that's the point. I want to make connections. So I'm going to go in. And then you go in and it's like, what? Portal to the art dimension, that's odd. Alright, I'm not going to do that. This is one of the more humorous scenes in the game. I mean, for obvious reasons, it's kind of odd that you would break into a random building and then start painting, but anyway, I'll leave that for you to discover yourself, while I go for a walk. There's a lot of that in this game. I'll show you one of the other interiors. Aurora Auto. What a lovely room. Very stylized, obviously. Windows aren't that bright in real life, but you get the idea. Now, what can I do? I can read this note. Walk up to the desk in the back of the room and find a note. Back in a little while, I'm mowing my lawn. Must be the owner. Come back later. And that's another thing about the game. Characters, it's kind of hard to explain, but depending on the order you do things, characters are not always in the same place 100% of the time. So like, if you did things in a different order, there would be a character here, and you wouldn't have to even read this note. So it kind of, yeah, depends on what order you like speak to people, that kind of determine where other people are. It's like the progress of time is marked by how much stuff you've done as opposed to like actual time. Anyway, look at these pictures. Oh, natural disasters. Fan. Let's go outside. I'm gonna go for a walk. Again. All the way over here to this tank. Because I want to talk about some things. Higher level, less specific to what you're seeing right now stuff. So let's look at some fish while we do that. So yes, this is the water tank. You come here later on in the game when you talk to someone, but you can come here earlier, doesn't make a difference. So I want to talk about inspiration, because nothing is original, and I don't really care if people know what I'm inspired by. I think it's better, because if you know what I'm inspired by, you'll have a better idea of what I'm trying to do. So I was talking about music earlier and how the game is constantly referencing music. That is because the main character that I've written, Desmond, he's a bit of a, I call him a nerd, but I don't mean that in like a derogatory sense. I just mean he kind of has lots of interests, and he's very passionate about those interests. And music is one of those. So all like these musical references I'm making, yeah, they're references in like the haha, wink wink sort of way, but they're also relevant to the main character. But I was talking about inspiration, just ignoring the main character, just me. I think a good example of like what music I'm inspired by would be like David Berman, and by extension Purple Mountains and Silver Dews. That music that he made, and especially like the lyrics within those songs, are highly influential. Partly because just the style, like the kind of old country, not old country, I don't know how to describe it. I'm not very good with music genres, but yeah, the lyrics are what I'm talking about here. Just how he describes things, and the topics of the songs are all very relevant to the game I'm making. So yeah, I've taken a lot of inspiration from his music, and I guess by extension also Pavement, because of Stephen Malkmus. He was also in Silver Dews. So those two bands, if you want a vibe check, if you want to know what the hell I'm going for, go check out Pavement and Silver Dews, because they are both amazing bands, although maybe not for everyone, because they're a little, I don't know, especially David Berman's music with Silver Dews. It's very self-deprecating and like kind of weird humor in like a hard to describe sort of way, but it's relevant to this game, so look at it. I guess there's other music I could say I'm inspired by, like, but it's more, if I just start naming artists, it kind of doesn't really help anyone, because what I just talked about, that's the main influence. When I made this video originally, for the 10 people who watched that video, I was talking about movies a lot, and specifically The Last Picture Show, which is a film about teenagers growing up in this small Texas town. And it's basically like about how the town is dead or dying, and there's absolutely nothing there for anybody anymore. And it's incredibly bleak, but it's something bleak if you like, you can take it from a surface level perspective. Yeah, it's sad because somebody dies or something, but the more you think about the film, the sadder it gets. Anyway, that film is relevant to this game also. And not for just the obvious reason that it's also set in Texas. But yeah, you get the idea. Now I'm going to go for a walk again. Those are my influences. A very, very brief look at my influences, because believe it or not, I'm inspired by more than just 2 artists in a movie. I'll keep it under wraps. I mean, it's kind of obvious who I'm influenced by just like reading the titles of the conversations, because you know they're all song titles. I'm gonna go look at the church, and while I do that, I'm gonna talk about some other stuff. House of God. It's more of that like religious sloganeering. Hell is real, Jesus loves you. This game is like kind of heavy on like the religious stuff. Not for any particular reason other than I think it's just appropriate for the setting. And it also makes for good humour because, well, I won't go any further than that, but it's played for jokes a lot. For example, and this is probably maybe an extreme example, I'm just going to read this. You grab the handle and pull. The door does not budge. Try the other handle, but still no success. What kind of a church locks its doors? Yeah, good question, Desmond. Most churches, probably. Although it's odd for this one to be locked at this time of the day. It isn't even dark yet. I want in. Am I not a child of God? Yes, we're all children of God. Lovely, except all those people that aren't. Yeah, except them. You give up on the doors and walk down to the message board by the sidewalk. Flower beds surrounding it are empty and dead. The letters on the board read, Jesus loves you. Clearly he didn't love you enough to open the door and let you inside, cunt. And that's what I mean by humour. It's very, very cynical. I talk about it like I didn't write it, but yeah, I wrote it. I wrote everything. And I wrote a lot of it. But, yeah, that's the sort of humour you're getting. Slightly vulgar, but not in a, I guess, juvenile sense. Just a cynical, vulgar. Also, being Australian, I think cunt has a very less, it's not that bad of a word. It's like shit. You just call people shit, call them a cunt, whatever. But calling Jesus a cunt, I don't know, I find that funny. Anyway, if you don't find that funny, this game probably isn't for you. Anyway, enough of that. Back to the actual game. What else can I talk about? Because there is a lot of to talk about, but most of it is narrative focused, and you know, like I've harped on a million times, I don't really want to talk about the narrative. I want you to play it. Oh, I know what I can talk about. How long is this game? I'm going to do it while getting a nice camera angle, and I'll turn the UI off. No, I won't. UI doesn't work. Whatever. What's all this then? This is a tractor museum. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about how long this game is. I did a full playthrough because the game is playable from start to finish. It's still not finished, but I can play it from start to end. It took me about 3 hours, and that was doing pretty much everything, but doing everything in one playthrough is impossible, so doing as much as you can do in one playthrough. So yeah, it took me about 3 hours. I read kind of fast, and I already knew what I was doing because I'd played the game like 100 times at that point, so my playthrough isn't representative of everyone's by not at all really. But that's to say it's not something you would play in one playthrough. So the game has a save system, so don't think you have to play it in one go. But yeah, it's not like insanely long. It's the sort of game you would play in 2 or 3 days. And it has replayability in the sense that, like, I'm just going to throw some numbers at you because I like throwing out big numbers. The game is 100,000 words long, which is a lot, but I think in one playthrough it's like physically impossible for you to read over half of it. Just because all the choices you make, you can only make the choice once, so you can't like go back over it again in the same playthrough. So you basically have to play the game multiple times in order to see all the writing I've done. So if that's for you, then the game will be way longer than 3 hours, but one playthrough, I'd say 3 hours. That's not a legal guarantee. If you can beat it under 2 hours and then refund it, good job, and also go fuck yourself. But that's your decision. What else can I talk about? When it releases, people tend to want to know that. I don't know. I'm going to say this year. As you can see, the game is like, I'd say close to a finished state, but it's missing all its audio, which, I mean, I think the main missing thing is the music as opposed to just like sound effects, because the sound effects will be very subtle in this game, not super overbearing. There's not a lot happening, it's just ambient sounds really. But yeah, I'm going to say this year, because I still have to do some things. I need to collaborate. I need to get music. Music is probably the most important thing for this game right now. but don't expect it next week. Because, let's be realistic. So, I think I'll wrap it up now. I'm just going to exit this conversation. So, 1 second. Right. So, yeah, that's Rodeo Clown. Visual novel walking simulator. That's a mouthful, but mostly visual novel. So yeah, if that interests you, great. Stick around. If not, great. I mean, not great, but great. I don't expect everyone to like this. It's a lot of reading. It's very specific to an audience. It's very lacking in gameplay, but that's not what we're here for. So yeah, again, if I'd like genuinely interested, just like, I don't know, just ask and I will literally just send you a build, because I can send you a build. It's fully playable from start to finish, and I would also appreciate the feedback. But watching this video is enough. I appreciate that to begin with, so thank you for that. And I probably won't post, I said in my last video I would post updates on this, but I don't think it's really appropriate for this sort of game, because there isn't a huge amount of changes. It's mostly just writing stuff, and I can't really show you that. So the next update on this game will probably be something related to like when it releases. So stick around, because I'll probably post it here. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.